on. I can't speak. Okay, good morning. Take a seat, please. Okay, good morning. We're going to start this workshop, Experiences in Development of Pharmaceutical Professional Services from the Community Pharmacy, organized and sponsored by the Spanish General Council, Pharmaceutical Council. The President would like to be here, the President Jesus Aguilar, but he can't stay here, so I'll be the chair on behalf of him. We have a 1 hour and a half session, and every one of the speakers will have 15 minutes. We will do the questions at the end of the presentations, and we'll keep the order you have in the program. Well, there's an exception. The fourth issue will be shared by Professor Mariño and myself. I'll be again on behalf of Professor Fernando Martinez, who can't stay here, who can be here today with us. So I'm on behalf of the day man today. Well, I'll start presenting in the same order that the intervention will take place. Marta Gil, on my right-hand side. She got her degree of pharmacy and her PhD in the University CEU, San Pablo CEU, in Madrid. She has also a master's degree in pharmaceutical care and clinical pharmacy. Her research is related to vascular pharmacology and physiopathology, mostly in relation to obesity now. Yeah? And she has written many papers. Well, all of the participants has written many papers. I don't want to repeat myself. There have been many conferences. They're very, very big curriculum vitae. So I'll just do a small, most resumen. Sorry. The second presenter is José Luis Nájera, on the far left-hand side. He got his pharmacy degree in Santiago de Compostela and his PhD degree in Madrid. He's a member of the Pharmacy Academy of Castilla y León, and now is president of the Palencia Professional Association, the Colegio de Palencia, and is secretary of the Council of Castilla y León. In the third place, he will present Hélder Mota. He's a representative of the Orden of Farmacéuticos of Portugal. He's professor of pharmacy in the pharmacy faculty of Lisbon, of University of Lisbon, and is former president of Infarmed, which is a national authority for medicines and medical devices. Well, I should present myself. I'm Miguel Gastelurrutia, Miguel Ángel. I'm community pharmacist in San Sebastian. I'm a member of the Pharmaceutical Care Research Group in the University of Granada. I got my degree of pharmacy in Pamplona and my PhD in Granada. And I do some research and some teaching in Granada and in pharmacy practice research. And the last, but not the worst, the best, I don't know how to say that in English, sorry. Eduardo Mariño is a good friend, has a pharmacy degree in this university, in Salamanca, and he got his PhD degree also in this town. He holds many honors. He's a member of a few academies in Spain and in South America. He was one of the pioneers academics in Spain, in this country, teaching clinical pharmacy in the first era, and now he's teaching clinical pharmacy and pharmaceutical care also in Barcelona. He's been teaching that issue since the early 90s, and also he has written a lot of papers. Okay, so, ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure for me to present Marta Gil. She has 15 minutes. I will be her chair, and I'll remind her when she has 5 minutes. Okay?
Good morning to everyone. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers for inviting me to participate in this meeting, and thank you, Miguel Ángel, for the nice presentation. Today, I'm going to show you a very brief overview about the current situation of pharmacy practice and pharmacy curricula in Spain. As I imagine you already know, pharmacy curricula is nowadays still regulated by the Order SIN 2137 that was approved in 2008. And within this order, it is described the requirements that are necessary to obtain a degree in pharmacy. And it's important to note that all these requirements have been conceived in order to ensure the minimal qualifications that are necessary for exercising the profession of a pharmacist. In addition, within this order, there is a description of all the competencies that should be acquired, but also the subjects that should be included in all the programs of every school of pharmacy in Spain. Nevertheless, this order is quite flexible, and this is why sometimes we might see several differences between the schools of pharmacy that we have in Spain. As you can see here, I have tried to show you the distribution of ECTs among the different fields of knowledge. And within this order, there is a description of the minimal number of ECTs that should be dedicated to each one of those fields of knowledge. And if we addition all of them, the total number of compulsory subjects, it is 240 ECTs. So the rest, up to 300, might be dedicated either to these subjects, but also to other optional subjects that might be of any field of knowledge. As you can see here, at least 24 ECTs should be dedicated to pharmacy and technology. At least 66 should be dedicated to medicine and pharmacology. At least 30 to the internship in pharmacy and the final project. 54 for the subjects within the field of chemistry. At least 12 for physics and mathematics. 42 for biology. And finally, 12 for legislation and social pharmacy. So, as you can see here, over 50% of all compulsory subjects are directly or indirectly related with the pharmacy practice. If we compare those data with the order that was available in the 19th, we can observe that the distribution is basically the same. However, it's important to note that this order was much more flexible than the one we have nowadays, because they only defined 193 ECTs. So they were more space for other optional subjects that were not really related with the pharmacy practice in most of the cases. In addition, it's important to note as well that there has been an evolution within the subjects included in those fields of knowledge, and in some cases the subjects are not the same as the ones that we had in the 19th. For this presentation, I have revised all course description for each school of pharmacy that we have in Spain, and I'm going to focus in this kind of subjects. Regarding the subjects that are directly related with pharmacy practice, I'm going to talk about clinical pharmacy, pharmaceutical care, and the internship in pharmacy. And regarding the subjects that are indirectly related with pharmacy practice, I will speak mainly about pharmacology, pharmacotherapy, pharmacokinetics, pharmaceutical technology, and also others like, for instance, pathophysiology. So, as you can see here, nowadays in Spain we have 22 schools of pharmacy. Among them, there are 13 that are in public universities and 9 that are in private universities. So, once again, as I told you before, I have revised the program of each university and all the courses description for each one of the subjects I have mentioned. So, I have revised, obviously, all the information that is available in the website, so I hope there are no many mistakes. So, this is the information to the one I had access. So, first I'm going to start with clinical pharmacy. As you can see here, it is a compulsory subject in 18 schools of pharmacy in Spain. And I was very surprised when I saw that even nowadays there are 4 schools that even do not offer it yet. In terms of the ECTs that are dedicated to clinical pharmacy, we might have observed a huge variability, and we have more or less half of these schools that dedicate at least 6 ECTs, but there are others that only dedicate around 3 ECTs. Regarding pharmaceutical care, which is a newer subject, as you know, it is already a compulsory subject in 16 schools of pharmacy in Spain. It is an optional subject in 3, but it is still non-offered in 2 schools of pharmacy. Regarding the number of ECTs, once again, there is an important variability, and some, more or less 50% of universities in Spain dedicate around 6 ECTs to pharmaceutical care, but there are others that only dedicate 3 ECTs. If we focus on the internship in pharmacy, it's important to emphasize the fact that, as all of you know, it is a mandatory requirement to perform an internship in pharmacy. So this is why, obviously, in all schools of pharmacy in Spain, we have this subject as a compulsory subject. However, there might be several differences between the schools, because, as you know, in some of them, it might be performed in pharmacy, in hospital pharmacy. In some others, it is performed in community pharmacy. And in some cases, it might be performed in both. So normally, half of the time in hospital pharmacies and half of the time in community pharmacies. Nevertheless, within this case, since it's a compulsory subject, there are no big differences in terms of ECTs. And as you can see here, normally it ranges between 24 to 30 ECTs. If we addition the number of ECTs dedicated to these subjects that are directly related with pharmacy practice, we can observe that more or less the 50% of Spanish schools dedicate between 35 to 40 ECTs to these kind of subjects, but 10% of schools dedicate less than 30, but I think it's maybe not enough. So, as you can see here, over 10% of total ECTs are dedicated to subjects that are directly related with the pharmacy practice. If we look at this slide, there are also other optional subjects that are offered in several schools of pharmacy. Here I've put some examples, like for instance, pharmaceutical care in oncologic patients, pharmacovigilance, nutritional assessment in community pharmacy, drug concentration monitoring, or formulation of individualized drugs, but there are others like clinical trials, pharmacoeconomy, and so on. Nevertheless, they are not offered in many schools yet, so we should maybe implement it in the future. Regarding the subjects that are indirectly related with the pharmacy practice, I'm going to start by pharmacology and pharmacotherapy. In general, as you can see, most universities dedicate at least 15 ECTs to these subjects, but in 20% of the Spanish schools, only or less than 15 ECTs are dedicated to pharmacology. Regarding biopharmacy and pharmacokinetics, it is in general quite stable, and most universities dedicate more or at least 9 ECTs, but there is one university that even do not offer it. Regarding pharmaceutical technology, most universities dedicate at least 16 ECTs, but there is one that has less than 10. And finally, regarding pathophysiology, I think it's the most common for all of them, and all schools dedicate at least 6 ECTs to this subject. If we pay attention to the pharmacist professional opportunities, I'm going to mention here the most common ones. So we have, for instance, the pharmaceutical industry, different kind of jobs within the administration, research and teaching, orthopedics, nutrition, hospital pharmacy, drug distribution, dermopharmacy, or others like clinical trials, pharmacovigilance, and so on. But we shouldn't forget that even nowadays, the most demanded one is still the community pharmacy. In this regard, it's important to note as well that is emerging a new role in pharmacy practice. So this is why for the last few years there has been an emergence of pharmaceutical care, especially in the field of pharmacotherapeutic follow-up, health education, the implementation of several pharmaceutical professional services, and all these services are aimed at achieving outcomes that improve the patient's quality of life. In this regard, several efforts have been performed in order to implement a specific formation on pharmaceutical care. So nowadays there are already available several masters in pharmaceutical care, like the one from the University of Barcelona, San Pablo CEU, Granada and San Jorge. But surprisingly, there are several academies like INESEM or Erinnova that also offer this kind of studies, and they are accredited by universities that do not have a degree in pharmacy. There are also other masters that are also related with pharmaceutical care, like the ones offered by the University of Valencia, the Valencia International University, the University of Álava, and University of Sevilla. In addition, or however, there is still a major concern about the formation of community pharmacists in pharmacy practice, and this is why several societies, like the Spanish Society of Community Pharmacy, the General Council of Official Colleges of Pharmacists, and the Spanish Society for the Optimization of Pharmacotherapy, also provide several continuing formation courses accredited by our Ministry of Health. In addition, it has been recently proposed a new proposal of contents about pharmaceutical care, but I'm not going to talk about it because I guess it's going to be presented afterwards. So finally, I would like to raise some questions that I think that are important nowadays. So the first one, if it is necessary to reinforce the formation in pharmaceutical care in the degree of pharmacy. The second one, if it's postgraduate specialization may be more appropriate. If it's the role of universities to provide this kind of information, or if so, we open it to other kind of organizations. So I would like to invite you to think a little bit about it, and of course, thank you very much for your attention.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Marta, for attaching to time. Now the next speaker is José Luis Nájera, President of the Colegio of Palencia.
Thanks to organization and to General Council of Spain for giving me the opportunity to speak today in this environment about the experience of the development of pharmaceutical professional service from the community pharmacy. Well, first I would like talking about us, what we are doing, and about our Spanish pharmaceutical model. I would like start saying that the General Council is the organ of representation of the official association of pharmacists in Spain. These represent the pharmaceutical profession nationally and internationally, promoting the interests of pharmacists and facilitating their professional advancement for the benefit of the society and providing high-quality services. In Spain, we are 72,500 pharmacists. Most of them, of our members, are women, and the 70% of our members work in one of the 22,000 community pharmacies that are distributed around our country. We are one of the countries with the highest, largest number of pharmacies per inhabitants, and that translates that the 99% of the population has a pharmacy in the place where they live. So the definition of our community pharmacies is that they are a private healthcare facility with public interest, and all of them cooperate with the national health system, ensuring the access to medicines and the pharmaceutical service, and allowing the integration of the public health provisions. In this slide, we can see what we are doing. It is shown the technical activity of the General Pharmaceutical Council that is based in the following pillars. And as you can see, one of these pillars is the professional pharmaceutical service. So the General Pharmaceutical Council is working with the other agents involved to achieve a common challenge. That is the implementation and sustainable organization, sustainable generalization for the professional pharmaceutical service. And what is a professional pharmaceutical service? Well, there is multiple terms and definition exists to describe a specific aspect of the pharmacy practice and service provisions. And the Pharmaceutical Care Forum defines these are those health activities that provide from the community pharmacy by the pharmacist who use his or her professional skills to prevent illness and to improve both the health of the population and that of the recipient of medicines and medical devices, playing an active role in optimizing the use process and the result of the treatments. These activities have their own entity with their own definition, purpose, procedures, and documentation systems, which allow for their evaluation and remuneration, ensuring their universality, continuity, and what is very important, the sustainability. The Pharmaceutical Care Forum also has classified this pharmaceutical professional service. We can divide in two kinds. Those ones that is related to the use of medicine and those ones that are related to the health public. And in the last 15 years, the General Pharmaceutical Council is working on the development of professional pharmaceutical service through the carrying out online training and focus on this professional pharmaceutical service and highlighting the work of the community pharmacists in obtaining health outcomes. Also, through the participation in this Pharmaceutical Care Forum, establishing consensus on terminology, procedures, or classification, and also, and it's very important, promoting research projects for the implementation of professional pharmaceutical service in the community pharmacy. Well, it is clear that the implementation of pharmaceutical service must be based on research that prioritizes those that are efficient for patient and also for the system. And for this reason, today I'm going to focus on explain that research project that we are working in that try to demonstrate to society, to administration, and to other health professional, the important role that pharmaceuticals can do. The projects that actually we are working in is Consigue, Concilia, and Anderenciamet. Well, I will start with Concilia, that is a medication reconciliation service. It is known that during the hospital admission, there is a high probability that the pharmacological treatment of the patient are modified. And for this reason, the coordination between pharmacists professionals, between healthcare levels, represents a fundamental tool to avoid omission, duplication, or interaction. So there is a great evidence that we need a medication reconciliation service. In this pharmaceutical service, it is conducted a systematic and protocolized comparison of the list of medicine used by the patients in order to ensure the highest accuracy that the comparison is performed both before and after a transition between levels of cares, aiming to ensure the needs, effectiveness, and safety of the current pharmacological treatment. And the aim of this service is to identify the possible discrepancies for the latest analysis, evaluation, and evaluation it is necessary. In this project participate 30 community pharmacies, 3 hospital pharmacy services, and 2 primary care pharmacies from Asturias, Salamanca, and Granada. And this project is directed to patients that are adult using any kind of medication and that were not institutionalized. The main results is that 120 patients were included. Most of them were included by hospital pharmacies and 34 by patients of the community pharmacies. The average age of these patients were around 70, and all of them, they use an average of 10 medication involved in their treatment. And the main result is that 87% of the patients has any discrepancy at the time of the hospital discharge. And the most frequent discrepancy was in medical omission or in medical initiation. So the conclusion of this program is that the conciliation services in the community pharmacy takes a special interest in the situation, such as at the hospital discharge of the patient who returns to his home, upon admission of social health centers served by the community pharmacy, and at the patient home after discharge from home hospitalization. In addition, the community pharmacy can collaborate with the hospital pharmacy in the admission of patients by providing the list of medicine that the patient uses in primary care. Well, then the next program that I would like to explain is CONGRAL, that is a medication review with follow-up service. This is one of the program that we have obtained better results, and I think that the result is very important. This program is an holistic program that has been designed to gain support from the stakeholders, professional organizations, and to set up the service efficiently in the pharmacies. This program supports the implementation and evaluation of the medication management service. And the overall aim of CONGRAL is to evaluate the clinical, economic, and humanistic impact of the provision of this service in the community pharmacy in the elderly polypharmacy population. The pharmacies detect the problems related to drugs from the prevention and resolution of negative results associated with the medication. And this service implies a covenant and must be provided in a continuous, systematic, and documented way in collaboration with the patient and with the other professional of the health system, with the appropriate result from improve the quality of life of the patient. In the development of this program was realized between 2014 and 2016. The main study, which lasts 2 months, include 5 work in pharmacies from several provinces of Spain. And in there participate 126 pharmacies and 222 community pharmacists, and more than 800 patients took part in this study, all of them polymedicated, chronically ill, and over 65 years old. And one important aspect for the implementation of this program and other programs that we are working is the presence of FOCO. That is a practice change facilitator. Our experience and research has suggested that the pharmacist training needs to be supported by individualized assistance over the time to encourage pharmaceutical service implementation and sustainability. So for this reason, while this program is under development, the pharmaceutical colleagues are performing a fundamental task by providing the pharmacists with a practice change facilitator. The FOCO carries out a number of visits to the pharmacies to assess their progress with the service and aid them with any problem they may be facing. And our experience indicates that this FOCO is fundamental for the success of the implementation of the service. As demonstrated that 90% of the pharmacies has implemented the medicine review with follow-up service, and the fact that during the implementation, 73% of the identified barriers were resolved by this practice change facilitator. The main results of this program is that if we analyze the clinical, economic, and humanistic impact, we observe that we have an important reduction of more than 50% in uncontrolled health problems, and we also observe an important reduction, also more than 50%, in the numbers of patients attending into emergencies or hospitalization. And we were able also to reduce the average of the medicines per patient. And another important question is that the patient perceive an improvement in the quality of life. In addition, the University of Granada and other consultants had made an estimated saving that they say that the provision of this service to elderly, chronic, and polymedicated patients could generate important saving up to 2,000 millions of euros, proceedings for medicines, emergency visit, or hospitalization. In addition, furthermore, we have to add those one associated with the improvement of patient quality of life. So we can say that this service is cost-effective and could have an important economic impact for the health system. So the conclusion of this program is that the community pharmacy, through the delivery of the medication review with follow-up service, promote the rational use of medicines, improve the health outcomes, and significantly improve the quality of life of patients. Those positive outcomes indicate that pharmacies can be effectively integrated into a multidisciplinary primary care team, and also that's important that this service can be implemented with minimal investment using the established pharmacist infrastructure and contribute cost effectively to the sustainability of the Spanish health system. And to finally, I would like to talk very briefly about the adherence managed service. It is all well known for all of us, and the WHO estimates that 50% of the chronically ill patients don't properly adhere to the prescribed treatments. Well, the adherence management service, called Adherencia Med, is a professional service in which pharmacists, through his intervention, actively collaborates with the patient, show that on a voluntary basis, he can follow the recommendation of health professional regarding the appropriate process for the use of medicine and healthcare products, the hygienic dietary habits, and on the lifestyle, in order to achieve the result in the patients. Here we have how is the process, and only we have preliminary results. More than 1,000 patients has been enrolled. 15% of the patients were no adherent at the beginning of the study, and what is most important, the 62% of these patients make a one inhaler technique. So the final conclusion are that the development of the healthcare pharmacy in Spain is a progress that has been initiated and there is no return back. It is demonstrated the important role of the community pharmacy in providing professional service. The health system needs to the healthcare pharmacy, and the activity of the health profession requires knowledge, the competence and collaboration of all agents, and of course, including the medicine expert. And what is more important, the patient needs and demand a pharmacy focus on the patient that contribute to measuring, evaluating, and improving health outcomes. So, thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, José Luis. Very interesting presentation. Now it's time for Professor Dr. Hélder Mota from Portugal. You have 15 minutes. I will advise you.
In Salamanca, and to transmit you the compliments of our president of the Orden Farmacéuticos, the Portuguese Pharmaceutical Society, and my presentation. It's not this one. Okay, it's not that. So I would like to talk about the pharmacy services in Portugal and the last development we had on this issue on the Portuguese pharmacies. So I still have a okay, no problem. So the agenda I propose is to talk about the healthcare system in Portugal, just a little bit, to characterize the profile of pharmacies and community, the pharmacists and community pharmacies in Portugal, some of the legislative framework and the last alterations on this legislative framework, and to explain a bit about the last political initiatives we had in Portugal, and to characterize the pharmacy services in Portugal, and finalize with the new opportunities we identify in Portugal about the professional intervention. So in Portugal, like in Spain and in almost all the countries, we have the healthcare system divided in primary hospital care and tertiary care, and the pharmacies are part of the private care on the primary health care. This is the number of active pharmacists we have in Portugal, so we are increasing the number of pharmacists, and as all of us know, is a female prevalent profession. So as you can see there, and the age range is a relatively young profession, and this is good. So in terms of professional areas, more than half of the pharmacists are working in community pharmacies, and after we have hospital pharmacies 9%, and different areas we have there what we call medical biology, but it's clinical analysis. Like in Spain, in Portugal, we have a relative strong role on this area as pharmacists, and this is the distribution by activity and by age, and I have no time to discuss this in deep, but we can see that the age profile reflects the activity and the more active professions in the pharmaceutical profession. We have a problem, crisis in clinical analysis, so that the profession, this activity, the age in this activity is relatively high. In community pharmacies, the age is relatively young because we increase the number of pharmacists in community pharmacies. Okay, this is the number of pharmacies in Portugal. We have some increases that are very well defined in time. This is when the state, when the government decide to open a new number of pharmacies. So, and after that, stays relatively stable, and after there is another initiative and increase, but we have 2,900 pharmacies. We have in Portugal that some conditions, the distance and the number of pharmacies per capita, and this is very well controlled. And I think, is my opinion, that this is the better system, because you can, with these conditions, you can cover all the territory and to avoid the big concentration in big cities and where the money is. So in the last 5 years, we had a number of new legislative initiatives. We had some legal documents that give more importance and ask more from the pharmacists. All of us pharmacists are used to this kind of legislative, but not legislative willing, but not with consequences. But in the last years, we had some consequences of these new legislations. So we had in 2007 a new law that gave the opportunity to the pharmacies to develop other pharmaceutical services other than to dispense medicines, and this was the beginning of a number of initiatives from the pharmacies to develop other services. And these are some examples of interventions, and I will choose just some of them. One of them is the immunization, the vaccination programs. This is something that at the beginning, like is normal as well, had a reaction from some other professional bodies, mainly nurses, more than medical doctors, but now, and even some bodies in the government that were not very comfortable with pharmacists giving vaccines, but now is very well recognized from the health ministry, and we are part of, the pharmacists and the community pharmacies are part of the system now. So because we have now 2,300 pharmacies having this service, and for that the pharmacists had to, they have to have some additional preparation. This is the book from the Orden Farmacéuticos that gives the theoretical knowledge, but they have to have some practical examination as well to be able to give vaccines. And this year, last season, pharmacies were very well recognized from the Ministry of Health, and now are full part of the system. If the patient is vaccinated in a pharmacy, the pharmacy can add automatically on the e-vaccination bulletin, like in the healthcare centers. Is this the same system? They do the same way, so this is a very clear recognition of the system about the role of pharmacies on this issue. The other one is the needle exchange program. Is a relatively old program in pharmacies, but in the last years we had some developments on that. And there is a law in Portugal that is the HTA law, a new law that is for health technology assessment. But is a very broad law, so gives in the same law some other services can be evaluated under this law. So these kind of health interventions can be treated with the HTA law, and this is the case. There was an evaluation of this program, and this HTA evaluation gave us information about the gain of this intervention in pharmacies, and the gain was from the study that the benefit for each syringe kit exchange at the pharmacies is estimated in €6, and was decided to compensate the pharmacies. So taking into consideration that result, the pharmacies are now paid €2.40 for each service of needle exchange. There is another one that is, this is very new, the pharmacy-based HIV medicines dispensing in Portugal. This is a program that is now in place with a number of pharmacies, and this was a measure in the government program, saying that this is the text of the government program, and this gives in the government program the recognition and ask the pharmacies to intervene in the dispensation of medicines that until now are dispensed in Portugal just at hospital level. This in the government program, the example is in oncology, but we decide to start with HIV drugs before to go to oncology, oral oncology products. And this is already in place. This involves all these organizations, the Orden dos Farmacêuticos, the associations of pharmacies, but hospitals and the governmental organizations. And the lead of this study is the Imperial College in London, so an independent organization that will assess this pilot. This is our Ministry of Health in a pharmacy when we decide to start the project. There are already 246 qualified pharmacies. The pharmacist has to have an additional course to dispense and to to enter in these new conditions of the pilot. We started with 43 patients. Now, in the second phase, is more 57 patients, and the number of pharmacies in place are increasing. And I think that in a very short term, the government will decide to move this not as a pilot, but recognize this role of the pharmacies. HIV drugs are not what were before, so it's more the safety profile is acceptable. The patients now are going every month to hospital to have access to the products. The medical consultation is every 6 months if they are stable, so that they can go to the pharmacy they choose to have access to these HIV products. The problem, one of the areas that the study is trying to characterize is the stigmatization and the comfort for patients and so on, but the preliminary results are very positive, so I think that we will move, and we are now studying going to the next step, that are the oral oncology products to do the same. So the other one is the involvement of pharmacies in the dispensing of generics. The pharmacies are gaining a percentage of the price, so generics are cheaper. The pharmacies are not very interested in economic terms to dispense generics, but now we have a new program that if the pharmacy dispenses one of the cheapest generic, they have a fee for this dispensation, so they are more involved in this dispensation. This is another one. And we have new opportunities that are there. This is a law from our government, so opening the opportunities to new service in pharmacies. And we very recently we started the giving access to HIV and hepatitis screening in pharmacies. This is a program as well, and this is very important. All these programs are part of the programs, the collaboration between pharmacies and healthcare centers and medical doctors. This is very important. This is the most important part of this project. Is not to have the patient suspended in the system. So that this is an integrated program, and things are going very well. We have another programs trying to have innovation on access of emergency situation at night and so on, to try to have more comfort for patients. We have the opioid substitution program that is an old one, but we are trying to give a value to all these services, to all these programs, because now with this new law there is a recognition if there is an added value from taking into consideration this new law, if there is an added value and you can quantify independently this added value, the pharmacies can be paid for this if it is an added value associated and very well characterized with this service. We have different other services, and this is important. We are trying to independently characterize the gain, the saves for the system, and if you can characterize and these results can be accepted from the government, we can initiate a negotiation about the payment of these services with the government. So this was in 15 minutes what I tried to give you. I tried to give you an overview of the new developments of pharmaceutical service, pharmacy service in Portugal. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Hélder. Well, now I'm the chair, I'm the speaker. I'll try to control myself and be brief, just to allow Professor Mariño to speak and to explain things properly. Sí, está. Well, ¿qué tengo que hacer? Okay. Well, our issue is experiences in the development of pharmaceutical professional services from the community pharmacy evolution. The slides are, as I told you earlier, are prepared by Professor Martinez, who couldn't come here, but he's been working closely to Professor Mariño, and I'm just the speaker. Well, what I'm going to try is to explain you the perception of the profession. Professor Marta explained very well the opinion of the academy on the education, on the education of the pharmacists, the future pharmacists. I'm going to explain which is the perception of the profession and why we've been working with the academy, just to prepare some things I don't want to tell you. I want to leave Professor Mariño to explain what it's about. So, pharmacy evolution. Pharmacy is just in the process of change, a big change. It started in the early 60s with clinical pharmacy in the States, and then it's been changing. There was a Paramount paper in the 90s by Hélder Strand, you all know, or you should know, you should have read it, Opportunities and Responsibilities in Pharmaceutical Care. And from this point, it appeared another philosophy of the practice, more centered in the patient. In Spain, in 2001, the health ministry joined a group of experts, and they reached a consensus on defining what is pharmaceutical care for Spanish pharmacists, and which were the main important services at that time, which was dispensing, OTC prescribing, and medication review follow-up, or pharmacotherapy follow-up. We've listened talking about forum, pharmaceutical care forum first, and later community pharmacy, pharmaceutical care forum that has been keeping on working in trying to standardize, making procedures and defining different services. And now the concept, the philosophy of pharmaceutical care has been operationalized into a practice of pharmaceutical services, pharmacy services. We've seen this table already, just the two types of, or two main, big main of dominions of services. These in bold letters are the ones that Pharmaceutical Care Forum has been working on: dispensing, OTC prescribing, reconciliation, adherence, medication review with follow-up, and all about the others we are talking and working on. Well, the General Council of Spain, of Pharmacy in Spain, sorry, has a very important declaration set up in 2014, the Declaración of Córdoba, and it says there that we have to support universities so that the contents of degree programs include and reflect clinical care practices adapted to the new needs of patients. We as professionals think that the needs of the people are changing, the needs of the health systems are changing, and we as health professionals we have to tackle with this problem and to give support to this new problem. And we have to be prepared. And we think that universities, one of the questions Marta aroused, the university must prepare the profession to start in the labor area. Also, there's another point, the number 8, encourage to research in community pharmacy, which is very important, in care processes and working towards professional pharmaceutical services and patient-oriented services. These two points in the Declaración de Córdoba make us think about we have to change something. We think we have to change something at the university level. Also, the FIP group, the Federation International Pharmaceutical Group, in the Congress in 2016, wrote a document talking about the future education strategy, and they say that we have to promote a more clinical education for pharmacists and a greater involvement of pharmacists in healthcare services, which always the same. We need a more clinical education, and we need to change our practice to a more clinical practice. And so they support the creation of, or they have created, a new structure. It's called FIP-ED. It's a new structure inside FIP, and they're working on that issue. And they support the new model of education for pharmacists. Also, the forum, Community Pharmacy Pharmaceutical Care Forum, has been working on this issue because we're not, I don't know if it's the proper word, we're worried, but we're, I don't know how to say in English, but we're working on that issue. And there have been four meetings, 4 workshops. Professor Mariño will explain that better. But just to give you just one conclusion of these meetings, you have to improve collaboration between the profession and university. We have to talk about with no problems. Talking is always good. In order to satisfy patients and national health system needs. And we think they should include new and more pharmaceutical care-related issues in core subjects, although there are many universities teaching these subjects, but perhaps we can talk about the way these subjects are taught, or as she explained us, there is kind of heterogeneity. Well, we can try to obtain more homogeneous teaching. And as a summary, I would say that we need, as pharmacists working in the street and thinking on the future pharmacists, a more clinical education. Thank you. I was very brief.
Buenos días, bon dia, good morning. I will try to do a brief presentation in 7 minutes. I'm going to present one document about proposal for teaching pharmaceutical care in the university. The Pharmaceutical Care Community Pharmacy Forum of the General Council of Pharmacy Official College raises the interest to know what was the demand in the clinical care training of the community pharmacy professional, and what was the educational offer of this training in the university degree of pharmacy. The result found, based on the appearance of term clinical pharmacy and pharmaceutical care in the syllabus published in the Spanish official bulletin, were as follows. This data are those corresponding to 2014, and we only know the change of the University of Salamanca that already appear in the Spanish official bulletin. This is the situation. As can be seen, there is a very heterogeneous situation in this case. For all this, from the Pharmaceutical Care Community Pharmacy Forum, a commission of university was created for the elaboration of documento of the matter. Well, this commission joined with representatives of colleges of pharmacists, representatives of societies professional, representatives of DN's pharmacy, a representative of university pharmaceutical care teachers. We have a total of 4 reunions, 4 meetings from an important number of time, and the qual in this commission was coordinated by the Professor Fernández Martínez from the University of Granada. I think that all the people know, and myself from the University of Barcelona. I'm sorry, but the document was titled Propuesta de contenidos específicos en atención farmacéutica, and we have the important collaboration from Laboratorio CINFA, y en este caso gracias Enrique por tu constante apoyo. The document is integrated by 6 blocks. Basic concepts in pharmaceutical care, pharmaceutical professional care service, research in pharmaceutical, biosocial science, pharmaceutical care and special population, and pharmaceutical care in I prefer dire prácticas tuteladas, estancias, y everybody have the language. Each block contains different number of topics, as it can be seen. In this case, in this slide. The structure of each topic is description, objective, content, methodology, and evaluation. In this case, is an example for the first topic. Its basic objective is to establish what pharmaceutical care is finally understood to be. Of course, as this document is adaptable, dynamic, and flexible, and surely, more surely, improvable. Finally, another time, not the last time, but another time, we insist in the concept of initially patient care, after pharmaceutical care, and probably another, I don't know, care, and the relation between drug and patient. Pharmaceutical care for us, for an important number of people, is dispensing, is as less dispensing, indication, and pharmacotherapy follow-up. And in this case, in our case, finally, only with this slide. For another declaration, indication, suggesting, we have my address of email, but all this information is in the Council of General College Pharmacy of Spain, in the web page, official page. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Eduardo. As I told you, we have very good speakers. They all attached to the time, and that's one of the more pleasures for a chair. Well, we have 10, 11 minutes just to questions, to talk about these interesting topics. Okay. Here. Speak slowly, please, because you understand our English is not very, very good. And
mine is not very good. Well, thank you very much for the presentation. I found them very interesting. My name is María Álvarez de Sotomayor. I'm Dean of the Faculty of Seville. And yesterday we have the first meeting of pharmaceutical care professors in the faculties of pharmacy in Spain. We were represented all faculties, and I would like to thank you all the work presented here, and all the professors came yesterday to share their all the experience in those years. My question is for Marta, because I missed, for example, that in many of the faculties, we also have some pharmacy practice content in law and legislation that are in the area of social pharmacy. For example, part of how to say, legislation about patient protection and management of not only business management, but also patient management. And I think that those credits, in part, should be part of the pharmacy practice. And also, in some of the universities, pharmacotherapy follow-up is part of the content of pharmacotherapy. There's only one word of difference, and I think that, well, it depends of the faculty, but pharmacotherapy is really directed to patient. Pharmacology is more the basis of the mechanism of action and so on, and pharmacotherapy is directed to patient, and in practice is patient-oriented. So, thank you.
But I really don't know if you had a question In fact, I agree with you that it's very difficult to make an overview about all of universities, because depending on the school, you might see that the contents more or less are in all schools, but maybe they are not placed in the same subjects. So this is why I try to make an overview about all of them based on the information that we have in the course description, but I didn't have access to all of them. So maybe this is why there might be some lacking information.
I asked to the chair if I can add a point, just a small thing. It's very important, and I think it's very interesting for us and for students to know the differences between pharmacy practice, which is a very global and broad concept, and pharmaceutical care or clinical pharmacy or patient care practice. Pharmacy practice is, as I told you, a global, a broad area. It involves management and everything that is done in pharmacy, while clinical care or patient care is just the care we deliver to the patients. Okay, just to puntualize that. Any other question? Okay, Margarida.
Buenos días a todos. Muchas gracias. I'm going to speak in English because it's the law of the Congress. So, thank you very much. But I have a question to Dr. José Luis Nájera. Do present us 4 or 3 experience that you have. Do you know what is the feeling of the other professional about your experience? It means when you talk about health, you need to talk about the disease, the patients, and the medicines. So would you like to have a comment on this? Do you understand my questions?
Yes, I think.
Okay, thank you very much.
Well, our experience is that the pharmacies that are involved in the development of this project, of this research project, there is a very good affectation, a very good satisfaction for the pharmacists, for the patients, and what we try to demonstrate is that to the administration that we are able to promote savings that make this project sustainability. So we try to we have the perception of the patient that is very good. So in other projects it is analyzed the perception of the patients, and I think that is good for everybody. And the pharmacists, they feel that his work is most important than also or only the dispensation of the medicines.
Anna?
Good morning. Congratulations for all of you. I would like to Mr. Mota, if it is necessary in Portugal, to have any kind of specialization to work as a pharmacist in a community pharmacy or in a hospital pharmacy.
There is a specialization that is given as the title of specialist for community hospital pharmacy, and we are now developing the college and the specialization, so the title of specialist in community pharmacy. In legislation, there is no need to be a specialist in community pharmacy to practice all the roles of community pharmacy. What we are doing with these new specialized services is to give an additional formation recognized by the Ordem dos Farmacêuticos in collaboration with the Ministry of Health, but recognized for the Ordem dos Farmacêuticos. To dispense HIV drugs, that must be a pharmacist with this short course on HIV dispensation. To administer a vaccine should be a pharmacist with this additional course on vaccination recognized by the Order of Pharmaceuticals. For the community pharmacy, the specialization is now in development, and very shortly we will have the title of specialist in pharmacy community, but there is, at least until now, some degrees of the profession that ask for the title. In terms of pharmacy, hospital pharmacy, there is no legal requirement to have the title, but it's good practice in hospitals to have pharmacists specialists in hospital pharmacy. We have another three specializations in Portugal, a clinical analysis, and to be the responsible of a clinical analysis laboratory, you have to have a specialization in clinical analysis by the Ordem dos Farmacêuticos, or clinical pathology by the Ordem dos Médicos, or the specialization in regulatory affairs, but there is no need to be a specialist to do regulatory affairs. And another one is in industrial pharmacy. And in the law, to be responsible for some roles in the pharmaceutical industry, you have to have the title of specialist. So this is the situation in Portugal.
Thank you very much. And can I add another one? And for the community pharmacy, to do these new services, is necessary any kind of special place to do it, and the community pharmacy needs specialized or to have any kind of conditions to do this new service, or any pharmacy that with the community pharmacies are homologated to do the service is necessary? Only this?
You have just for this I give as an example HIV drugs and vaccination. So you have to have in a pharmacy some particular conditions. You have to have pharmacists with this additional formation recognized, and when Infarmed go inspect the pharmacy, the inspectors will ask for this course for the professionals and that do this, but the pharmacies has to have special equipment and special conditions to give to administer vaccines. And for HIV is the same. You have to have a special dedicated office to have the contact with the patient. But with the new law from 2007 of the pharmacies, all the new pharmacies has to have at least one of these consultation offices in the pharmacies. If you have a pharmacy without this special equipment, you cannot enter in this process to dispense HIV drugs. For these HIV drugs, I gave just the good information, but there are a lot of difficulties on this process. The difficulties about IT. You have to have an exchange of information about the patient with the hospital, and this is not very easy for several level of reasons. but we could do that for these pilot pharmacies, and this is, I think, that a very important step to exchange information about patients with primary care, hospitals and pharmacies in the future. So we are it's very difficult, but I think that is an example that this exchange of information can be done.
Hello, good morning. My question is for the Portuguese representative. I have several questions. I'm going to try to make them all in a row. Regarding the HIV drugs and the HIV testing, who exactly is providing the drugs to the pharmacy? Because these are very expensive drugs. So I imagine that it's not the pharmacy that is buying them. They must come from the hospital, I presume. And if I'm not mistaken, this project is yet confined to Lisbon, correct? So when is expanded to the rest of the country, how exactly is the distribution of these drugs going to be granted? Regarding the training of the persons in charge of dispensing the drugs and also dispensing the HIV testing, they are done exclusively by the Pharmaceutical Society, or they have collaboration, for example, with the Medical Society, universities, Ministry of Health?
Yeah. So, two questions. Yeah, the pilot is in the Lisbon region with a hospital center that this is the hospital in Lisbon that has more patients with HIV. So where the pilot is on the Lisbon region because we had we could not expand more because this is a pilot and there are a lot of things that we are working on and fine-tuning. So this is an example for all the country if the project will be the final conclusions will be approved. The distribution of the drugs are drugs that are paid by the hospital, but they are not coming from the hospital, but from the distributors. So the distributor puts the product in the pharmacy and not in the hospital. This is something that we are discussing in parallel, is how these drugs will be paid, how this service will be paid at the pharmacies when the pilot finished and we start. This is another level of discussion. This is the payment and the mechanism of payment and control of these drugs. But what is discussing is not to pay a percentage of the price like in other drugs, but pay for the service that this is much more a service than to a normal dispensing and the rules of a normal dispensing for payment. Concerning the courses that the pharmacist has to attend, this is a collaboration between infectiologists of the hospitals, between the general health, the public health directorate of the Ministry of Health, and the pharmacy associations and the Orden dos Farmacéuticos. So it's a collaborative work, and must be like that. So the part of pathology, of the safety of the patient and so on, is the part of this course is given from the infectiologists of the hospital infectiologists. So this is a collaborative, and another important information, practical. When we start this, we were expecting that the more strong reaction against could come from the patients and patients associations. Was not true. Came from the colleagues. And we had, at the beginning of the process, not now, a strong reaction from our colleagues from hospitals, our colleagues, the hospital pharmacists. But now, curiously, not from the physicians, but from our colleagues from the hospital pharmacies. But now things are okay, so are some reactions that we were not expecting, but now things are going well.
Okay, we are out of time. Just one last question.
You touched a very important point there, because actually HIV patients at this point are going to the hospital in other parts of the country to get these drugs for free. So if this expands to the rest of the country, they will have to go to the pharmacy and pay for the service. Is that what you are saying? Or is the payment done to the pharmacy by the state? Because this is something that I didn't understand.
No, it's for free for the patient. What we are discussing is how the pharmacies will be paid by the system. The patient is free, and there are only patients that the doctor says, okay, you are under control, you come here every 6 months so you can get your medicines in your pharmacy and not have to come every month to the hospital. And there are some signals that are part of this formation of the pharmacists. If the community pharmacists can identify one of these signals, they have to contact the hospital, and the patient goes to the hospital again.
Okay, thank you. I want to thank all the speakers. I think it has been a wonderful round table. We all are on the same chariot with the same aim, just to help patients and to support the health system. So we have to talk, we have to go on and keep working together. So thank you very much and enjoy the coffee break now.